it was like, oh my god, you know, my biggest worry is everyone just keeps on playing the game instead of making the game. And it was like, okay, we gotta. It's really good that people are into. They will always be like, oh, I'm testing the game. This is QA, right? It's like, okay, we got to a point it's stable enough. We gotta start focusing on development. But that's when we knew, like, oh, okay, this is something that we feel.
You're onto something.
If we put it out to the public, yeah, exactly, we're onto something the public could appreciate.
And they did. Literally, like the first play test that it was not the one most recently, the one before, if I'm not mistaken. I only got onto the tail end of that one. I probably played, I think you did it for about 4 or 5 days, and I played the last 2 or 3 of that. And at the start, you could just see the graph. Like every day, it was just like, it was just skyrocketing. Because when someone plays something good, it spreads like wildfire. And one of the cool things, I guess, with the whole playtest system that you've got is it leaves people wanting more. Instead of like going to the point like, when is the next stuff? I'm so burnt out, I can't play this game anymore. Like, you've actually made it in a if you continue to do it the way you're doing it, you're leaving people wanting more.
Okay, so part of it is strategy, but part of it, so doing the playtests in this manner, we're doing it right now. We have the very limited time playtest. So part of it is strategy, but part of it is because for us, this is it is an alpha for us. And there's a lot of things that we're experimenting. So, I mean, you know, my partner, the main guy, that's the creative head, that's, you know, behind everything you see in Dark and Darker being the way it is this guy SDF.
Yo, what's up, Patterns?
Yo.
Okay.
You ready to fuck shit up?
Dark and Darker. And so
yeah, I can hear you, buddy.
In terms of in terms of developing Dark and Darker, is that a lot of times, you know, through our experience as developers for such a long time, we know, okay, this is probably what's the right path. But there's still a lot of assumptions that we make, and to us is okay. Until we actually test our assumptions, we don't know if it's exactly right or not. And so, for us, these playtests is for us. We don't understand why other companies are all not using this method, because for sure their developers, their designers probably have the same kind of questions, but they don't have the right data yet, right? And so then they're assuming everything. And so for us, is when we do have, we compile all these questions or assumptions that we have, and then we actually use the alpha playtest as our test bed too. So I guess
let's go in here.
Playtest has different points that we're trying to figure out. Oh, what's the right thing? Hey, we thought this was right, but we're not sure. You know, we're like 60% sure about that, but maybe we're completely 100% looking the point. And so let's actually put it out there, and the players will tell us or if we mess something up, or we're doing something wrong. That, you know, and it's not when I say they'll tell us, I'm not saying so much that they're going to come to Discord and tell us, you know, feedback just verbally, but we look at the actual behavior. That's more important stuff. And we're not saying that verbal feedback and that kind of one-to-one feedback isn't important, but then for us it's because I don't, you know, just like me personally, you know, so,
yo, there's people down there.
Way that you can go, okay, these are the things we want to test.
People down here.
Get that data and you can react to it if it worked out right or wrong.
Yeah, but at the same time, we're not saying like that emotional response is just as important. So, okay, one example, the very, very first playtest, what we really wanted to test out was the darkness. Because, okay, the title of the game is Dark and Darker. And
I need some heals.
You can use darkness as a game mechanic itself, right? But then there was always this kind of back and forth tug of war between like, okay, do we want to have it like pitch black? But then it's not, is it? So, like, yeah, so if we go pitch black, you know, one of the comments someone said back then was, oh, the game looks like a PS2 game. Oh man, you know, and do we want to make it look a lot prettier? And so we experimented with a lot of different kind of lighting options and how dark we can make the game. So in the very first playtest, I guess it's a second playtest because we actually have a first playtest before, but like the first public game playtest, you know, that was one of the main things.
Holy fuck.
We had
Oh god!
videos on YouTube of Dark and Darker, you'll see that people just boosted their gamma to the highest, the
They can
brightness.
see through stuff.
Yeah, because they could see through stuff. And then, and that was an awesome learning experience for us. We saw, okay, so, you know, there's these sacrifices we have to make if we want to pretty up the game and stuff, then people are going to just, everyone's going to start, because it is a hardcore kind of competitive, you know, there's that element to the game. And so people are going to take any advantage they can. And so then we're like, oh man, so it doesn't even matter if we pretty it up because everyone's just going to do the maximum brightness and it's going to look disgusting anyways, you know? So yeah, okay, PS2 graphics, and let's focus on the mechanics. And then, but it was a blessing in disguise too, because as we started developing and going deeper into, okay, how can we still work within this, you know, the true blackness, our art team, you know, they started figuring out other techniques to make it look a little bit better. And so it's not like this horrid, blocky 2D mess. Yeah.
I love the lighting factors because, for example, if you turn a torch off and you hide in a corner, you can't be seen. So like when I play as a rogue, I can actually sneak up on someone properly. Or if there's a big room, you can turn off like half the room's lights and your team can be hiding in that room. You've got that option. Actually, and it just feels immersive too.
Yeah, so exactly. So the reason that we were able to come to that point was because our first playtest, that was what we were interested in. Because if we didn't have that experience you're talking about, that specific experience you're talking about right now, might not have ever occurred. Because so this is a true story. What we did is we had the multiple maps with different lighting. So there's 3 different lighting types, and then people were trying to hide with the rogue. In the first 2 lighting types, they couldn't do that. That play was, because if you gamma boost it, you still see the outline, and then the one of them, you could basically, if it didn't matter, you gamma boost and far away, you can still see, there's 2 rogues hiding right there, right? And so the last one, the ugliest looking one, that's the one, so one of the streamers was playing that that map. So I memorized all the layouts, and I could tell, like, the super dark one. And in that map, one of the streamers in our first playtest did exactly what you're talking about. And this was one of the fantasies that we said we had to fulfill, right? Is that kind of sneaky rogue assassin style play, and that actually occurred on that stream, on that map, and we were like, okay, that's the data point. So when I talk about, okay, numbers matter too, but like having that no shell raw feedback too, that matters just as much, because we saw that one video and we're like, okay, the other lighting schemes, they're gone. And from that point on, we decided, okay, we're not going to do that, and this is the right path. And so these are things that we're continuing experimenting in each of the playtests. So yeah, our playtests are that have that limited window. We don't want to just all at once. The only reason we're doing these playtests in these limited windows is because we're trying to collect real data, and then that's going to give us the information we need to do to move, change, or adapt the direction of the game for the next playtest.
I don't know, the direction and how your mentality and how you're developing it, it's really solid.
Thank you.
So let's talk about, let's a good wrap up of the history of where we got to today.
Okay.
I want to spend probably the next 15-20 minutes to talk about where it's going, and then we'll open up for questions at the end. And we'll speed run as many questions as we can. You can do yes, no, maybe, and that. So currently we've got, I want to say, 8 classes?
Yeah, 6 classes.
6 classes. You're probably going to add a fair few more. Do you have like a list of things that you want to add?
Well, so the only one we've confirmed so far, okay, so before I talk about the classes, I'll just, so just so you know, our goal with the game is. So I joke with another, I forget who it was. I think I was saying it's basically Dark and Darker. Our goal for Dark and Darker is we want to like all those classic, worn out fantasy tropes that to us that's not a bad thing. Like something becoming a fantasy trope. For us, that's our game design option. It's like, oh, okay. And so, if it's traditional classic fantasy, there's a very high likelihood that we're going to somehow try to encapsulate that back into Dark and Dark,
yep.
right? So it goes back with our classes. So if you see our classes, they're very, like the 6 classes right now, we started with what we felt were the most basic traditional fantasy classes, but at the same time, we know we're missing out on a lot of it. And so the one that we've confirmed that's coming next, and it's not going to be in this playtest. So I think it's going to be the next one coming is going to be hard. And personally, I played hard in EverQuest, so I was pushing really hard for okay, this class has to be the larger. And then I think from then on, you're going to see a lot of the other traditional fantasy classes. So, and what he says is, at least for right now, is we want each of the class to feel special, right? So the way you play it should feel like, okay, this is unique. So, and I think we did a fairly good job with the 6 classes we have right now. And I think our idea for how we're going to implement the bar is going to be very unique and feel special also. And so we have a lot of different ideas. And if you've seen it in typical other traditional fantasy games, please expect it. There's a very high likelihood that you're going to see it in Dark and Darker eventually.
Yeah, I know you've touched on in a previous cast that we're going to have like races for each of the classes and all that. Is this to also, like, I know there'll be little perks and appearance and all that. It's to kind of give the person who's playing that class their chance to give their own identity. Are you going to also do stuff like character customization to see how you can change how your face looks and all that kind of stuff as well?
Okay, so 2 parts there. So I talked about the races in the DLC podcast, right? And then, so another true story. Right after that, STF's like, "Oh, why did you say that?" And it was like, "Why?
I wanted to surprise him."
Talking about. Well, he was like, "I'm not 100% sure about that." I was like, "Oh, what?" Okay, so, and then we had a deeper talk about it. So, so we're at like 90% sure that we're gonna have races, but there's still a so that's why. That's the other thing that I want to make clear. And I felt like a broken record during that podcast. I was kept on saying, "Oh, but none of this is written in stone, right?" Yeah. So any of this, it could change.
Subject to change.
And subject to change. But we're in the same journey together, where we're having these thoughts. And so right now, I can only give you how we project out for the next couple months, and then what we're thinking right now. And so for races is. The reason I said the answer was, like we're talking about, what our goal with Darker and Darker is we want to make this a game where people could fulfill that kind of fantasy, a high, or not even high fantasy, but that traditional classic fantasy world. And I'm part of that, and I'm doing that dungeon crawl, and with my mates, and that's that kind of fantasy that we want to give. And so. To us, it did make sense that there would be different races, because that's the stuff that we grew up with, like the books and the games that we played. But so this is the last 2 weeks we've been now when we I said that, so it's kind of like a promise, and we're like, okay, so how do we actually do it? And we started going into the details. We're like, oh my god, wait a second, I might have spoken.
I hope so, Fire.
So that's why there's
Hold the line.
10% chance that But I mean, so these for us these are awesome fun design challenges, and so we're gonna keep on drilling as far into it until we get a solution that we're satisfied with. So there is. I'm just bringing this up because there's like that 10% chance maybe you can't do races, because there's other. I guess, design pillars that, you know, we're always considering. And one of the things that, you know, we were talking about was like, oh, we want, you know, we always talk about, oh, we want our games to go there, right? And one of the reasons that we started this company was like, we weren't happy with like any kind of exploitive business models. But then when we started thinking about how we use races, and at the same time, you know, we put on our business hat and, well, we got to make sure that the game, we can run our servers and stuff, or how do we monetize it? And so trying to figure out this triangle and not making it pay to win, it was like, oh my God, this is a hard challenge. Is okay, so we don't have an answer right now. And so this playtest, this next playtest, we're gonna be experimenting again. So again, what you see in the playtest doesn't mean that this is the exact implementation. But again, yeah. So we're gonna try collecting data, and so you'll see like a cosmetic or a race. We don't. And again, because we're collecting data, we don't know exactly which branch we're gonna go towards. But you'll see the beginnings of what we're trying to figure out, right? So like the first kind of there'll be a race. The first race. You'll see it in the next playtest, and you'll be able to kind of mess around with them, or mess around with it, I guess.
Yep.
In terms of the actual character customization, like bases and stuff, for us, that's a very low priority.
Yep.
So if it does come into the game, it'll be once we get all the other higher priority systems into the game first. Yeah.
So I'm under the impression that your main focus is to make sure the core and bones of the game is 100%.
Oh, you've never played Starsiege? It's pretty good. It's also an extraction game like Dark and Darker.
Cool stuff.
Exactly. Yeah. So to us,
it's a space shooter extraction, basically.
Definitely
Definitely not as good as Dark and Darker, but nothing is. So
RPGs where you could basically, with all the sliders and stuff, you could, you know, make like a carbon copy of like actual like, you know, real life people.
You can get it for free on Steam. They just came out into like early access for free.
But to us, it's like, you know, we would rather make a bunch more weapons, or make the animations just more satisfying, and, you know, because again, right now we're a very limited small team, and so we have to be very careful about where we're focusing our resources.
Yeah,
and
so it's very like hard to catch back up on, and
yeah, so those kind of things later on, if we have that kind of liberty to do that kind of stuff, that would be awesome. But our focus is on the core system, the fundamental system, and the stuff that will actually add to the enjoyment of fulfilling that kind of fantasy fulfillment, you know, traditional, classic dungeon crawler with your buddies.
Right. Yeah. So what can we expect over the next couple of months that you've projected that you're happy to say publicly? Over the next playtest and then the potentially following playtest.
Yeah. So I guess the stuff I can say with the highest confidence is for the next playtest, because those are stuff that's being built right now, and, you know, a lot of the systems are already built. So these are things that I could talk about with high confidence, or at least for the December playtest. So I think the biggest thing, one of the things is we're working on the crafting system. So it's just going to be the same system again. So we're experimenting, and we have an idea for how we want to flesh out the system eventually. It's going to be the very basic systems of crafting. So you could go into the dungeon, get some kind of base material, bring it out, manipulate those kind of materials, and then build, you know, items that are gear for your character. So hopefully that should at least like one item for each. Our goal is places one item for each class.
So is the crafting going to be like RNG based? So you craft an item, so you say you want to get like, I don't know, say a mace, and you craft the mace and you use random stats, and it could be a rare, unique, etc. Or wait and see?
I don't know yet. So again, there's gonna, you know, so we have a lot of different design tools that we could work with. So like you're talking about the different kinds of item rarity grades. And so we haven't actually made them. So, okay, I'll be very honest. What we have in our design for the crafting right now that's set in stone is you could go in, get a material, bring it back out, and then craft it. But we don't have any of those details done yet. And so those Yeah, I can't give a concrete answer for that. So we'll see. And then whatever you see in the playtest
what our first taste
might
is.
not be in the next playtest.
Yep.
The next playtest will be like, what the heck was this system? I mean, if you look at the characters, you saw that skill tree, right? And it says coming soon. That was actually supposed to, so we put that in, that coming soon back in October, September. The coming soon, that graphic. And we actually thought we were going to have that in. And then, due to that response and what we saw, we're like, shut down a lot. And people are having way more fun customizing. So all those perks and skills were supposed to be gated in that skill tree system. And we're like, oh, you know what? People are having so much fun and enjoyment just making their characters, and even just that simple progression of unlocking a little perk about every 5 level, that people were having a lot of fun with that. And so, okay, you know what, we'll put this on hold, and then now let's start concentrating on other content on other systems that we can start building up. So that's why I'm so hesitant to say, I don't know what's going to happen with the crafting system, except, hey, you could go in, okay, I'll give another example. There's a lot of people on our team that like Minecraft, so that'll give you a hint on what the first type of crafting mechanic might be. So bing, 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 bing. So besides that, we don't have the details. We still have like 3 more weeks actually doing the development, and so yeah, that's one of the big things for the December playtest. And the other one. This is I think this is like an exclusive. This is where the first time we're mentioning this is we're thinking of doing this thing called High Roller Dungeons. We mentioned, I think, with Lumpeg one time, long time ago in an interview with him, and then we just haven't said anything about it since then. But one of the concepts we're thinking about is this thing called the High Roller Dungeons, and this is something that was on our roadmap even like 9-10 months ago. And so like I actually made a poker game a long time ago. Yeah, that's how friendly as it could be. But and and then we're making that you discover this whole new world of poker. Like it's just that subculture is huge too, right?
Yo, wait a minute, I can drop you shit if you need,
We're
man.
gonna go into the tavern. You're gonna have a poker table set up, and we'll be able to play poker. At the high roller.
Maybe an update. So the high roller is that maybe there's
pick up the shit. I dropped it on the ground.
Of dungeons that you could go in, and you would have to ante. You would have to have a certain amount of ante to even attempt those dungeons.
Yep.
Yeah. And so what we're looking to experiment here is in terms of the PvP density, and we could start messing around with like how many parties and how many people could go into each dungeon, and then we're gonna start experimenting with the size of each map. So like, the map that we have, one of the takeaways was, we felt like at certain times the density was higher than we were comfortable with, but then we actually liked like when there's a lot of PvP action happening, and so we're like, oh man, but we don't want to lose that feel either. Like if it's too loose. But at the same time, it's like there's some assumptions that we're making about, if it gets bigger and less dense, does that increase the tension when PvP situation?
I don't know if this is public opinion, but I always felt, and I could be wrong, but I always felt the circles were just like 30 seconds too fast. And that might be like an intention, but it was like sometimes like, you just want to take on this fight, but if we do, we're all dead. And I felt like sometimes,
Yeah. So again, those are the other stuff. Having just one set of dungeons is that it gives us one type of experience, and like having now like high roller, we could start kind of fiddling around with those kind of miles that we have. So even the current circle speed right now, the circles were around 40% faster.
Yeah.
And we were
If you like had a
everyone was
slider,
speedrunning
just
everything.
testing it all out, just figuring out where the sweet spot is.
The current timing right now, it actually, so another true story is this actually came from the September playtest, and we were watching another streamer. It was Jonah Vale, right? And he was, and I went into a stream, and he was complaining about the speed of the circles. I was like, okay, let's negotiate the time of the circles in real time on this stream. And I was like, okay, well, I'll up it to 8 minutes. He's like, no, we gotta have 11 minutes. I was like, nah, that's way too. And so I think the current speed in the bottom map was because he insisted that it was way too fast. Yeah, I was trying to make it as quick as possible, and he was like, no, it has to be even longer. And then we agreed on some like middle point.
The issue became, at least with us, it's like we had to pretty much pick between if we're going to try and search for loot or we're going to have to fight people, because it was like you kind of stressed because I don't have much time to search stuff, but I have to also fight people to make sure I got time to, you know, loot. But then if I fight people, I ran out of time to loot, and it was just, yeah. I think you'll figure it out. But it always felt like, and maybe that's a good thing though. You always feel that little bit of like, oh my god, I've got this like pressure on my back that I have to make sure I get shit done.
Yeah, so you telling me that is like, oh, okay. I think for us, that kind of that's reassuring. Okay, we're not too far off of where we want to be, because we do want to give that kind of tension and that kind of pressure. So you don't want it to be so, and especially because I did watch your streams, and like when you have like the super high skilled team parties, it's like your team that is just like vacuuming up all the dudes. You know, I was like, at that point, I was like, oh man, I feel real, like it's really entertaining. At the same time, as a designer, you're like, oh man, I feel so bad for the new players. And so there's that kind of balance that, you know, we're trying to figure out. And so giving like people, the higher tier parties, giving them that little bit of pressure, I think that is a good thing, but there's always a lot of balance work that we have to consider.
All right, so I don't want to take up the whole day. So I've got a question for myself. Probably the biggest contention and issue I hear from everyone is solo queue. If you were going to do this, you could do a solo and then you also go in with duos, and the duos could go with trios, but you wouldn't have the solos with the trios. That makes sense. The duos could be randomized, or it'd be a solo with the option to go with everyone. Kind of like how PUBG did it. Now, I'm not saying you want to do it or not, but the only way I could see it happening, because if you just had solos, I feel like it would be, I don't know.
Yeah. So, okay. So this is things that we're considering also. And so I'll tell you right now, like the normal and the high roller, one of the reasons we want to test this out right now is that at least with the normal dungeons, we're going to have the way we place the starting spot. So I'm sure, you know, you guys, when you played the most recent playthrough, there were some really god-awful starting spots. You know, oh my god, hey, you would start right next to, and that was actually my fault. I'm the guy that made that level. And I was like, oh. And so that was good feedback for us saying, okay, we gotta put a little bit more forethought into how we're gonna do these starting spots, locations, and that's gonna give people that kind of feel of right from the get-go, this is insurmountable. You know, like I'm a solo and I start right next to a 3-man squad, right? And so before we go to the easiest solution is like solo queue, you know, to us, that's just, we like having these kind of design challenges to kind of, you know, make us think a little bit, you know, try a little bit harder to figure out a solution that might end up being even better overall and fits the I guess the vision for the project itself. So the reason we're not just doing straight up solo queue right from the get-go right now is because when we envision Dark and Darker, like I said, it's that you're playing traditional fantasy, filling those roles, dungeon crawling with your buddies. And now, you know, that was the core driving thing. And so that's why everything right now is kind of balanced that way. And so then, you know, in that kind of room, it could be duels and stuff. And so it's not that we're saying that's not the way to play, but we're still so far from completing that vision. And so, yeah, we know that, and for us doing solo queue ever in the game.
So-
and going through this playtest, yeah.
So the way I see it is, there's an actual benefit to not having solo queues, and it is to help build a community, right? It forces people to go, hey, join a Discord, find some people to play with, and then people find friends. But if you want to brute force your way into solo, then you get your and then your survival rate's not going to be the extraction games, extraction-based you're not always going to win, but at least when you do, you get that extra feeling of satisfaction. So it's kind of it sometimes can be quite overwhelming though, particularly if it was your first time playing the game and you're a solo player jumping in and like, g'day mate.
Yeah, exactly. So at least for right now, without going the route of just doing a solo queue matchmaking is because. So the other thing that we were really happy about, and this is a surprise that we found out through the playtest, is that first of all we have no matchmaking formula.
Yep, no.
It's just basically totally random. Okay. Oh, there's 16 people. Let's put them in the game. But we realized, that's actually one of the advantages that people really like our game is that you get into the next match so quickly, right? And so,
I love it.
Yeah, and so the reason you can do that is because that solo queue is can be matched up with use Hacktail and one pack because we don't have any system in place, and to make sure that people are any kind of MMR system, right? And so this is for us as a learning experience too. It's like, maybe so the MMR system, if we do put that in, now for us challenges, we have to start calculating out, okay, what's the benefits and how does that affect the overall vision of the game. And so in terms of doing like a solo queue, that's just another way that it's going to separate out the matching pools, and then it's going to make matching take longer, right? And so for us, doing high rollers, like that was our biggest concern. Is like, oh man, one of our biggest advantages is these quick matchmaking times. But if we split even into 2 different matching pools, how big of an effect's going? Yeah. Seriously, how much difference is it going to make? And so that's why we're going ahead with this plan, and we're going to be collecting all that data to see what's the waiting times and how much difference it makes. And so for us, it's exciting too. It's like, okay, more data for us, and we have other like technical ways to make these things feel like more complex or more dense and stuff. But going back to solo queue, like you're talking about. Yeah, that kind of situation, we feel like there's other ways that we could kind of ameliorate, those crazy like 1 versus 3 with the map density, different kind of spawn locations, and that's one of the big things that we're going to be looking into this playtest. And we're not going to get it perfect, we know that, but I mean, this is something we're curious. We feel it's just as important because people have been asking for solo queue for so long, and then we're going to try a couple of our other crazy ideas first before we can say, okay, we give up more details. But hopefully, one of our other ideas might get more, and then the best of all these different attributes all in.
Looks like someone just said trial and error, and that's how you work it out. All right, I've got a question for a friend of mine. He loves making. His Rust YouTuber whose name's Wellen, and he asked me to ask you, are you going to add any to be able to like film within the dungeon or replays of what happened during the dungeon or anything like that? Is that on the books at all? And you can give me yes or no, so you don't have to go into detail.
So no, because honestly,
Just crushed it, but continue.
Yeah, if you see my face in this connection right now, it's just like, oh, okay. So it's on my radar now, but that just means that it's going to take some time, and we have to get to what's the reality.
Some YouTubers, particularly Rust YouTubers, love making story-based content, and I think this game has stories you can make out of it. So glad it's on your radar.
Well, I just got on my radar and at the bottom part and it got cut off. So no void disk playtest, but it's on our radar, and it's actually fairly high priority. So either the next playtest or early access.
I think you could rotate items already, can't you?
No, we can't, and that's an actual design decision. So for us, it's like, okay, this just adds to the tension, and we didn't feel like, playing that kind of mini game was the kind of feel that we wanted to give for the game. It's just like, okay, you grab items and
how many? Sorry.
I love Tetris. Yeah, I love Tetris, but yeah, sadly that's the way we decided to go.
I'm trying to like get punched through a heap of these because I don't want to take up heaps of your time. So how many maps do you think there's going to be overall? What's your
for play? So again, this is a complicated question because next playtest there's going to be probably 2 crypt maps for the normal map, and then 2 Inferno, and then modifications of these maps for the high rollers.
That's good. Is there going to be a way that you will do some sort of like procedurally generated maps? Because they're all kind of modular with certain specific rooms, either on like a rotation system or of any sort.
Hopefully, but so again, disclosure is, we thought that was going to be an awesome idea. So this is why I'm so careful. There's so many things when we first think about it, we're like, dude, this is money. This is what we got to do. So procedural generated maps, same thing. We're like, oh, this is the way to go. And then we actually tried it, and we're like, oh my god, we're really bad at making procedurally generated maps. So at this point, we're like, okay, we don't have time or the resources to do all that R&D to make this good enough. So we joke, instead of AI for artificial intelligence, our company is based on HI. It's just human intelligence. Basically, that just means do as much, everything handmade right now. So eventually, we'll see.
Shared stash between classes.
Again, so 2 months ago, if you asked us, for sure it's going in, and then we got to start actually designing that, and we're not so sure right now. Yeah.
Is there any end goal in mind for the game, like a storyline or something to grind for, like an end state, like how do you complete the game?
So in terms of like an actual storyline, we're working on that, but more so as like the lore. So we're gonna build up the lore of the game, and then we're gonna do quests. So one thing to note is in our market change is that we're looking at wipes, seasonal wipes. So and putting in new content every three months, and the duration, all the details can change. But this is where our mind is at right now. And so in terms of this actual like heavy set storyline, I know SCF, he has something in mind and for this world, but for us, at least for the next like 4 or 5 years, we're just going to be world building.
Will progression always be as fast as it is, or can we expect the game to have slow progression in the future?
Oh, for sure, yeah. So we actually sped up all the progression. That's like, because we thought that playtest was going to be three days. Like every playtest, we're like 3 days max, and we've never had any of our playtests actually be 3 days, just because we always had an issue, and we're like, oh my god, so we've always extended the playtest to this point. But all of this stuff is balanced around, okay, can we get enough people to try out enough content so we get enough data collected in that 3 days? And so the progression speed right now is highly accelerated. That's what I can tell you. So the next playtest, we're actually going to ramp it down a little bit.
The next playtest?
Yeah, it's a week. And so and again, we're planning for that. Okay. People can be able to get this, yeah.
Cool. Arrows for crossbows, bows, arrows, are they coming? Or is it going to be like unlimited ammo?
That's our reach goal. So, like I was talking about, Void was one of our reach goals, but just because we've never implemented Void before, that's why we pushed it back, and we don't know when we'll be able to do that. But at least we have the bow and arrows and the quiver. So we call it the quiver system. And then that's kind of locked in with the bag system. So for sure we know we're not going to be able to do the bag system this next playtest because it's too big. But we might be able to push like the first 10% of the quiver system if everything goes this next playtest, but there's I would say like 90% chance that we're not going to get to it this playtest.
Is it going to be more of a place to hang out? You can play fight against each other like in the tavern instead of just going straight into the game and you like practice like a lobby system where you don't actually go straight in with poker.
With poker, yes. Lots and lots of stuff about that. So, and if you probably find one of our like full interviews, we probably talked about like arena and stuff. So these are things that we want to do, but we don't have any of the details. And again, we spoke too soon. We're like, yeah, we're gonna have everything. You know, it's easy to promise when even if we're talking about, yeah, you know, it'd be awesome to have like a yard right behind the tavern and like a, you know, really get something to get like a line of people. We joke about, but a lot of stuff we joke about actually end up becoming real features. So.
The roadmap for release is the end of next year. Do you plan to do a full-fledged early access period before that?
That's the goal, yeah.
And up until that point would be just doing the
playtest, yes. Yeah, our goal is to do our early access. Internally, we're thinking Q2 next year. I think building up enough of the systems, like the foundational systems.
Oh, sorry, pause for a sec. My Discord does this weird thing where all of a sudden audio mutes. Go again.
Okay, sorry, okay. Yeah, so internally our goal is we want to do early access in Q2 next year, Q2 next year, so sometime in the spring, hopefully. At that point we'll still be doing these house playtests.
Do you have a plan for estimated cost? Or you haven't figured out how you're monetizing it?
Yeah, so for sure now, so when we started, we were, again, there's a perfect example of where...
They want to give you their money. They're saying specifically they want to give you their money.
So, originally we thought it was going to be free to play, and we're pretty much 99% we supposed to win the free to play game. And so we're going to look into doing a business model of a package game. And so those are where our current vision is at right now. So we're looking into it, investigating. Again, but because our first business development hats are
in the background.
Yeah. So we're gonna start considering more deeply. So, but yeah, no price set.
Do you ever plan to rework the leaderboard at all, or you, from what you've seen so far, you're kind of happy with it?
Well, so the leaderboard is just totally temporary. It's just to get goals and just kind of like a fun, like, fun kind of thing for each of the playtests. So like this next playtest, I think one of our, just to get like these high-end goals, right? So the next playtest, most likely the leaderboard is we're only going to track it for the higher, if you want to see Dark and Darker could get.
Thought he was a teammate.
We realize it could get pretty sweaty, but we want to see how far we can push it with the high roller.
You did a really good job of managing the server load. I know there was a couple of hiccups on the first playtest, but the second playtest went fairly smooth.
That's because of the first playtest.
Are you scaling just because you're expecting more and more plays each time?
Also, again, this goes back to September last year. Was we needed the proper server technology, and so our main server guy, he has like a decade of experience making these online games in Korea. So we knew that had to be available. So the reason there were so many hiccups the last playtest was because we had all those big hiccups in the September playtest, and that actually helped us out a lot. And so we're much more confident now is that even multiple what we had this last playtest come in, we're pretty confident about that. There are some technical other like business decision reasons that it's not going to be perfect. Those are the wrinkles that we're going to we actually have a lot. We actually have money
Yeah.
to do that.
I'll go. Are you gonna open up for modding at all, or any people do modding stuff?
I don't know.
Okay.
Again, it's kind of like the.
I'll ask this question. You don't have to go into detail with that one. If you don't know, you don't know. Is there any way people can invest into the company?
No. Yeah. So like.
Because there might be some loyal prints in the chat right now with like $100 million just going, I'm ready. You bring me in. You know.
So in terms of like investment, I think we're at the stage that we feel we're pretty stable now. But at the same time, it's like if you know our history, we like taking risks and we like betting on ourselves, and that's why we're trying to figure out ways to do it with the least amount of
external influence.
Influence. And so that was the thing for us, that having that kind of our own creative freedom to make maybe a stupid, ridiculous choice, but as long as we decided to do that, then we will be happy. But if we start taking too much money from externally, then we kind of lose that liberty. So.
All right, 2 last questions. Are you going to increase the group size above 3 ever?
Not in the near future. Yeah, I think right now 3 that's kind of our sweet spot, and we haven't even fully balanced that correctly yet. So. Yeah, give us time.
And the last question I'll give is, what can you tell us about if you're doing some sort of guilds, and if so, what can you tell us about it?
Yes, we want to do something with guilds for sure. Like SDF, he was actually like a guild leader, in World of Warcraft. So definitely we want to do something with guilds. We have no idea what we're gonna do with guilds though.
All right.
We're at that stage right now.
Listen, thank you so much for your time. Like, you guys are doing an amazing job. It's a lot of fun. I don't want to take up any more of your time. You've sticking back late just to chat to us. If you are late to this, it'll be up on my VODs. Otherwise, I'll put it up on YouTube, and you guys can get that on YouTube. But yeah, pleasure having a chat with you. If you're open to it, I'll chat to you after the next playtest. I'm sure I'm going to have more questions and stuff. And I might bring some friends along next time too. I know people like Xacriel and Wellen and even Sequisha, and there's heaps of guys that would love to jump in and have a chat to you and that. So if you're
that'd be awesome. I just want to say thank you to them also, because they've been so supportive, even from the way back, those original playtests. And so if there's any way we could contact them directly and say thank you.
Follow them on Twitter. I'm sure they'll follow you back.
Yeah. All right.
Thanks so much, mate.
Thank you so much.
No worries. Pleasure. Right. And we'll talk soon.
Okay, let's see if I can make this thing work. What up, everybody? I don't know how to turn my fucking alerts off. I think if I do that, it won't go off. Let me see. Yeah, alright. Fixed it. Alright, let's see. Let's make a phone call, shall we? Hey.
Hi guys, can you see me?
Yep. Hold on, I gotta adjust the volume a little bit.
Can you hear me?
Wow. Yep.
Okay, how's the sound? Sorry, it's a little...
No, you sound fine. I'm just trying to get volume levels for everybody.
Okay. When you're ready, I'll send out the announcement on our Discord.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
Let me just pop this up to full screen.
Is it normal to not see your own video feed, or is it? Oh, there we go. Is that better? Can you see me now?
Yeah, I can see you. Yep.
Hey, Steve. How you doing?
Hello. All right, hold on. Just trying to get everybody in the same place here. let's see. Now if I move this to here. Hey, okay, cool. Everybody shows up on the stream. Good stuff.
Alright, I'm just doing this now. Spam everyone.
Okay. So yeah, looks like we're all here. So hey everybody, my name is OnePeg, and I am flanked by Terry, the head of Iron Mace Games, and below me here you see my man Sacriel, who was kind enough to also join us for our conversation today.
How are we doing?
Good. Terry, how's things going, man?
It's been pretty challenging this time around. I'm not gonna lie.
Oh yeah?
If I knew it was gonna be a video, I should have probably done a quick change too, but it's only a 1 day sell, so not too bad.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
So
This one was tough.
it was tough. Yeah, because you said that you only had what 3.5 weeks this time around, right?
Yeah, so actually after the last playtest, we extended it until the 26th, right? And then we just took the rest of the year off. We told everyone, all right, that's a wrap for this year. We'll see you next year. And then we came back, January 2nd? And then started working on the next, for this playtest. But the other thing that happened was right in the middle, we had the Lunar New Year's, which is a big holiday in Korea. So it was like, basically that week was washed too. So everyone, people took time off there. We actually only had, if you count even to this day, it's 4 weeks. So, in terms of, so we're not gonna have as much juicy content this time, or things to talk about. So if we thought about what we was limited kind of development time. So for this upcoming playtest, because in conjunction with the Steam Next Fest, is that we kind of focus more on quality of life features. So I think it's partly it has to do with because we're doing it with that Next Fest. We think there's going to be, in addition to the people that participate in the previous playtest, we'll probably have a little bit more exposure to, people, just a wider indie, game audience, and so make things a little bit easier for new people onboarding. So that's kind of what we focused on this time.
Yeah, and you guys have seen a...
Yeah, 3.5 weeks, it's kind of hard to...
You guys saw a pretty meteoric rise between the September playtest when I started playing and when I made that first YouTube video. Because the time that I made that video, the only thing that existed on all of YouTube was a 30-second clip of somebody taking on a 3-man party from the playtest prior, your very first playtest.
That's creepy.
Yeah, the only thing that existed before that. So you went from assuming you were going to have 300 players to having 10,000 concurrent at peak. And then the next playtest you had 30,000. And then this last playtest you had 100,000.
But more than that, what we're talking about was that the average concurrent user was
70K.
pretty solid at like over 50,000. And so,
it's still amazing.
So I mean, what that kind of showed us was, so originally when we started this project is we knew that we wanted to target the North American, the Western market. That's where it's going to resonate. The setting will resonate most. But I think what the last playtest kind of showed us is, first of all, our users are super hardcore. If you look at our average play time, it just keeps on going up with each playtest, right? It's insane. And they put people into different kind of the average play time. And our graph is like, and then it goes down, and then we have this at the very end. The last bucket is like the big jump, and we're like, whoa.
So you have a lot of addicts.
Yeah.
Did I read that you had over 1 million uniques on Steam?
Yeah, this time. So crazy.
That is crazy. For a 4th round playtest or whatever, you know. I mean, that just means you guys are making something special, man. You got a lot of people addicted to what it is that you're creating, and that's pretty cool.
Yeah, so big shout out to the team right out here.
Yeah, I have hundreds of hours. I'm not even ashamed to admit it. I've been living in that game when it's a lot around, man. So in regards to this one, the one that, coming up from the last playtest, we always thought what about the last playtest you think worked well, and what is Come on, man, this is the 3rd time we've done this. I ask the same question at the start every time.
What do we do well last time?
Well, if you
Well, you got a lot more players.
The rating table, blue bottles. There's a lot of feedback about rapidly change that around until we found a happy medium. That was a good change.
Yeah, so I think first of all was, okay, so
The skeletons get cool.
oh yeah, there's going to be more cosmetics that we're going to be testing out. We're not exactly sure the current implementation, but we're going to go with them. We have other ideas, but we didn't have time to implement all that. But we were able to put in more skins. I think balancing, but we did want to start doing some of the balancing. Obviously, that's how we're, like some of the magic stuff.
I was gonna ask about the wizard. See what you did to my boy.
Watch the videos. In our world, in our mind, it's like that's where magic should be powerful, right? But because like some of the formulas and some of the design work that we did was a lot of it was done before we actually implemented actual magic spells. It's just like here's the magic, and so okay, and we haven't actually that since. So that was like, oh wait, yeah, maybe. So some of the tables and stuff. So we're not. We still haven't edited it. That's one of the options that we always had in mind is, okay, this is one of the ways we could balance it but that's kind of going the easy route. And so I think this time we're going to try some other ways of balancing out, like the magic, the power curves and stuff. We're not going to actually touch, we might. So again, we still have like 4 to 5 days. And so we're going to do more internal testing, but, we want to make it like, oh, if you get that super, just specialize in one area, that's crazy, having that kind of ability to have these kind of weird builds, we still want to encourage that, right? We don't want to press everything out, so every play style similar, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we're trying to find that kind of medium there. So I think, but I'll straight out say what we're doing with the wizard to kind of balance it with the starting stats. So again, this is holdover from where we designed the classes before we actually had a magic system inside the game itself. And so when we made the wizard, right, is that in our mind, like the wizard was like the guy that studied a lot of magic, so he had a lot of knowledge, but then so he's gonna be more versatile, right, in magic. And then in our mind, like the guy that's the super powerful magic user is like the sorcerer. The sorcerer is like the guy that has like the innate magic ability, but he didn't study, he read like one book one magic book, and he's like super good at those spells, and they're super powerful. So he's not as versatile with his spells, but he would be more powerful. But what happened is, our wizard right now is more like what we imagine like the sorcerer would be, because we actually implemented magic. We didn't have a lot of spells, right? And then the other thing was, we didn't have the knowledge attribute wasn't fully implemented until the last playtest, right? So when we were playing with our wizard, and he had all these stats and knowledge, it was like, dude, he's like, or compared to all other characters, because they don't have so we're like, oh, okay, that's it, but just compared to all other characters. Let's kind of switch it around so he's reliable, he's like different, right? And now knowledge. And so it's like, okay, so and these are things could change. Things could change in the next, days. So it is, well, okay, let's go back to what our original intention, that vision of what the movie was, right? It's like, oh, he's like a multi-purpose kind of magic user. And so we're actually looking at, instead of touching too much of the power table, that we're going to actually touch balance the spells directly itself, and then actually change around the stats of the starting stats. And so the other thing we realize when we're looking at the stats is that for all the characters have base stats. If you sum up all the stats, it's 75, except
He's got 74. Yeah, my boy, you did him dirty.
Yeah, so all the users, Tyler will be happy to know that we give him an extra point in agility. So
you hear that, Chad? We got our point back. Let's go.
Yeah.
I think one thing that's really interesting about the game, and that is a gift and a curse to you when it comes to balancing, is no matter how much someone stacks into one build with one set of stats, if they step in a hunter trap and they just get headshot from they're dead. If they just walk past a rogue that happened to be in stealth and they get stabbed in the head with the ambush thing and the right perks, they're dead. So there's quite a lot of binary fights where it doesn't matter what stat someone's got, whether they're in grey gear or epic gear. If they just walk through that door, clink, look down, and they go, oh god, headshot from a crossbow, dead. So as much as it might feel like, oh, there's that highlight of that wizard running into a 3-man and killing them, that wizard maybe next game walks into a trap and gets killed by a dude in greens. So there's all these more interesting, nuanced fights that you can get into where it doesn't really matter how powerful someone is, because there's lots of situations where you make one mistake and you're instantly dead.
Yeah, so I mean, we've had internally, the design team, we've had conversations about how we want to do balancing. And I think part of it is that instead of just going purely on fully data driven, and then we want to have like everyone using the same amount of the class distribution, skill distribution, spell distribution, perk distribution. Is like, no, we do want these kind of really high peaks and valleys, because I think overall in the end, that's what makes it more fun. It's like if you have like a fighting game, and even when you try to balance fighting, the fighting games, you have a huge roster, but not every single character is viable in depending on what kind of scene that you try to, in the competitive scene, maybe there's like 5 characters that,
exactly.
Right?
It's like 5 SPA characters.
Yeah. But it doesn't. But the thing is, like, as long as all the characters are fun in its own way. So, and this goes back to my experience. Like 20 years ago, I read this game called Shattered Galaxy, which was like a MMORTS game, right? And so it was like an RPG/RTS online game, and you could build all your little mini art, soldiers and stuff, right? You could make armors, guns, and the amount of combinations was in the billions, right? So it was like, okay, how do we balance this? And back then, I actually tried to balance everything. Like, okay, so this made things so people are picking things that are fairly even distributed. And we made this big, we punched all, like, worked on that for several scope months. And, before it was like, people would have the craziest, weird builds, and to do this, everyone but then as we looked at it, like, people started dropping out because it's like playing Street Fighter and all you have is two characters. Even though they all are different, but all plays out. And that's kind of what ended up happening. And so for us now, it's like, okay, where there's these huge peaks and valleys, maybe, our goal is like, so it's not too extreme, right? But we do want to have these kind of different kind of valleys and peaks and stuff where people can figure out their play style. But at the same time, because things are happening, there's always this kind of situation where the most popular, it doesn't work that, and now you're and so for us, it's like that just makes more interesting gameplay. That makes more interesting game experience. And so that's kind of what we mean. So we kind of understand like this is kind of an impossible thing. For all the different classes and perks and skills that we still have in our minds that we want to start implementing in the future, we realize like trying to perfectly try to balance it with distribution and still somewhat viable, right? And it makes good moments. That's what
highlight real stuff. I like it.
it's like, oh, that's what I'm gonna do,
Okay, so with high roller dungeons from the last playtest, we saw the introduction of high rollers. How do you feel like that went? We saw like there was some adjustments to how the loot distribution was like a little bit later on in the playtest where you guys kind of buffed the loot quality that started coming out of like the latter parts of the dungeon runs. So how do you feel like that went? And then like I know that there was a bit of a community split with like leaderboards being related to high roller only versus like normal, and like what did you guys end up coming to on that?
So high roller was always in the picture from very early on in the discussion of how we wanted to do the service in the game, and so that's something that we're gonna continue to tweak. So early on, we knew that there was an issue. There was not enough people going to high roller. First of all, in terms of the difficulty, we overtuned the difficulty. So, and when you went in, it was just like even all blue items. It was kind of on the high end of the difficulty curve, and so we did need to do a lot more tuning there. In terms of giving enough incentive for people to go to the high roller. So even if you did go to the high roller, the initial drops, the tables there, we were not giving enough incentive to say, oh, it's worth my time, it's worth that risk to go there. And so that's why so I think what's coming is that in terms of, there's going to be very, very good incentives to go get the boss in high roller this time.
Nice.
Right? Because there's certain stuff, like the only way to get unique items is by beating the boss, right? And we're going to make it worth your time to go and get those unique items now.
Okay. That sounds like it's gonna be pretty fun. I'm okay with that.
Like, all right, we'll see. I think people will be pretty excited when they discover some of the new uniques that come out. So.
Okay, so speaking of bosses, we had the ARG that you guys did that luckily we were able to figure out, and one of my community members and one of his friends ended up finding the QR code under a bench. So we were able to get that figured out, and then we have this image of the troll boss, the cave troll boss, and it looks like he's in a cave. So we were thinking like troll boss in B1. Does that mean that that's coming with this playtest?
Yes. So I'll let you know. It's not B1. Okay. So that's the twist.
Wait, what? Say that again.
So it's going to be very experimental. There's this big divide, right, in our community about, hey, how do you support solo adventurers, right?
Okay.
And so we're gonna do a big experimental thing this time. Is that so? Again, it's weird. So our policy, the way we designed the game from the is that we're not big fans of just having a solo shoot, right? But in our mind, and what we want to accomplish for the game, 5-10 years down the line, the overall vision is that Dark and Darker is not just about just one dungeon. So there's this whole world, right? And so we want it to feel like it's like an actual world setting, right? And so this is it's going to be like a teaser. It's like, everyone is used to this dungeon that they're familiar with right now. It's like, wait, but we want to give you a hint that it's more than just this one location. We thought, hey, well, there's this whole thing about solo adventurers. It's like, okay, can we leverage, what we want to do, start expanding the world setting, and then, kind of experiment to see, okay, how much desire and how much need for it, and can we design an experience around just, So the one thing we didn't want to do was like, make a solo queue just for our current dungeon, because that's not what the current, Crypt dungeon is designed around, right? It's around that kind of whole, hey, I'm here with my fantasy party, and we're going dungeon diving, right? And it's like, okay, but these adventurers, they're not always going to be hanging around with their adventuring crew. Sometimes they want to go do things on their own, right? And it's like, okay, how can we accommodate that and still keep within the lore and expand upon the setting that we want to do? And so that's kind of what that hint with the cave trolls. So again, it's very experimental. We're looking at, because the community, I think a large part of the community has been giving us that message, like, hey, my friends are online, I still want to be able to do something that builds upon my character. And it's like, so, they made it loud and clear that there's that kind of need. And we want to, like, SDF, the guy in charge of our studio, charge of this project, like, when we kicked off the new year at our company, he said straight up, he says, the goal of our company and our team is to fulfill the dreams of the gamers that want to play our games. So that's our main motivation. And so if they had that kind of nostalgic dream to, want to be adventuring, but not always with a group, hey, we gotta take that seriously. And this we do it in a way that we can make it our own, that fits this whole Dark and Darker experience. So we're gonna try to, if it can fully blow up in our face, we realize that. So there's gonna be this big, huge experimental thing. I've used that word a lot inside, you know. So we're really looking to collect data and saying, oh, and again, it's like version 0.1. So just like high rollers needed a lot of work from when it first came out, the first iteration. We realized this is going to require a lot of work to get where but it's a good starting point to start getting a little bit of data and see if, hey, is this just a vocal minority just, you know, kind of shouting, or is this a real desire and a real need that we have to accommodate? And so that's, yeah. And there's definitely a lot of concerns into it. It's just because it will split the player base. Like, even with high rollers, that was our biggest concern. It's like, oh, okay. So one of the things that we did learn with the high rollers was that we're not getting as many people as we expected to go into the high rollers. A lot more people are still playing normal dungeons, so that's why, like, we're putting up 40 credits right now, right, for high roll. And so we know, like, having this new dungeon that's focused on the solo experience is gonna pull a lot of players from the current player base, right, or the current matchmaking. And so that's a big concern for us. So that's another thing that we're going to be looking at. But I think just because of the success from the last playtest, that's kind of what gave us the ability and like kind of confidence to say, oh, okay, if we get the numbers that we did the last playtest, then even with the you know, some full of audience going in here, we in our number of preliminary numbers country, but we still have a healthy matchmaking pool for our current dungeon, and with the really enticing high roller dungeons have a good chunk of people going into that, right? So again, after the playtest, we'll have a lot more concrete, you know, data that we could talk about, and then we could say, oh, this is in the direction that we were hoping for, or this was like an utter disaster failure. We'll see. Yeah, but unless we do something like this and we test it directly with our players, and we won't know. You know, then everything is it's like the theory crafted magic power first. You know. So that's what the cave troll is hinting about.
So completely separate dungeon.
It's going to be a completely new dungeon.
So for solo players.
For solo players.
That is awesome.
Around, yeah.
Let's go. All right, that's great. I think that is going to be a lot of fun.
Like if we see things that's not good for us, it can disappear in the middle of the playtest.
But to be fair, if you wanted to play solo and go into the group side, you could still do that.
You can still do that. Yes.
Yeah. Will there be a separate level of difficulty for the solo side, or is it one dungeon run troll boss and that's the run?
That's the run right now. So again, this is because first of all, we had 3.5 weeks. The idea, the idea, the concept actually started the first week of January. We're like, oh wait, there's so much people asking for this. Is this even viable? And we're like, okay, well, if we do have enough sleepless nights, we might be able to do this. And so that's where we're at right now. Like, it was built in basically 2.5 weeks.
I think it's gonna be fun, man. I think it's gonna be fun.
I hope so. So, and we're looking for that feedback to see. And again, please realize this is the first iteration, the first experience. That's what we're hoping to build upon. And if we're totally in the wrong direction, let us know about that too. So we're going to be looking at this as an actual. I mean, every single playtest we always approach it as this is an actual playtest, and we're trying to figure out, are we doing things right, and it actually does change our direction. So very obvious point is the scale trigger now. That went in almost in September, right? October. We haven't touched it yet because right now it's like, man, we had that fully designed out, and what we realized is like, oh, maybe our design, the assumptions that we made for that, it might have not actually been the actual direction of the game. And so that's what makes it all, because we have to revisit it and see if, okay, now the way that the community has driven the game is that, okay, how do we kind of, bring it back? And so again, real true playtest, and things that we feel like worked out well, those are the things that we keep on carrying over. Things that, so we are getting a lot of good feedback.
Dungeon? Is it blue, epic, mythic?
It'll be, so right now, so again, we'll probably change it as it goes on, but right now it's going to be for the, so yeah. So it basically, think of it like so it might go up to legendary. So we're still tuning that troll. Yeah, and we have other ways, other dials to make it difficult, not just by, increasing the damages, the troll itself, like other aspects of the map. And the density of how many solo adventurers go in. If you're attacking, fighting troll boss, and then if 5 other solo guys come in there, it's just gonna be chaos, right? So yeah, we have these little things that we can start messing around with.
Okay.
So right now we're thinking it's epic, but if we make it more difficult, maybe even up to legendary, we'll see. Yeah.
Troll boss is gonna be tough. I got a feeling he's gonna be hard. Playing by trying to kill him yourself, I think he's gonna be tough.
You gotta be very careful. Yeah. So the other thing we kind of wanted to do with the troll boss is that, like the current bosses, the ranged characters have a lot of, I guess it's a little bit easier for the ranged characters to take down the bosses. Yeah. So with the troll boss, we wanted to make it range has its advantages, but like getting up in the face with the troll fighting it is going to be a better experience. Yeah.
Okay.
I suppose it'd be interesting if maybe the bosses across the board could potentially have weak spots that can only be exploited by melee characters. But offset damage someone can do by just sitting back and blinking, dodge the spell, blinking. If you're the warrior or the cleric or whatever, you're up front fighting, and then a weak spot appears, and you're like, oh, I can get my crit in there, and you kind of feel like you're doing pulling more DPS.
Those are the things that we wanted to kind of experimentate, but just because of the short duration of development time and stuff. So the other thing, just because we're such a small development team, is that we can't do a lot of the actual 3D assets in house. Right? We have one full-time 3D operator that makes assets, and then our art director, he could our art leader, he could do 3D models, but his time is so valuable. It's spent making sure the art team is not going up right. So we're using a lot of assets from the marketplace, right? So the limitation there is that because we're buying these things and then we have to customize it,
Yeah.
Right.
But, so, like, if everything was made custom made in-house from the ground up, then it takes a lot more pre-planning, but then we could do a lot of those kind of things you're talking about, Sakura was talking about, from the planning stage. Yeah, but then now because we're starting with like we have some limitations that we have to work with. And I'm not saying that it's just you can't work with it. It's just that we didn't have the time. Yeah.
Well, that's kind of insanely impressive because the agility I've seen from your team, despite
you guys are 22 developers at Cuba.
Oh, that was crazy.
But at the same time, so our limitation right now is that. So what we realized with this playtest, or this
I don't know how I'm alive.
playtest, so we do have those kind of limitations with our capacity, but this time we felt that kind of constriction, that bottleneck was actually the design team. So we only have 3 full-time game designers, right? And it's just like, it's level 1, level designer, the system design, or, like the weapons and the balance and stuff, and 1 monster designer. And so they're all excellent, they're the guys that are making the games, right? All that content. But it's just 3 people. Well, I guess SPF, creative, he's actually the full designer, so 4, right? Doing all the design work. And so this time, even if we had those assets and everything all lined up, it's still one guy is gonna make all the monsters right now. So there's that. So we do need to find a solution for that too. So, but if we get to that stage that Becky was talking about, oh my god, yeah, that's gonna be an interesting problem to have. So that's the dream. That's the dream.
Yeah. It will be. You're gonna sell 2 million copies of this game. But it's happening. Yeah, that's happening. Yeah.
Easy.
How are you guys on pace for your Q2 release? Do you still feel as though you're hitting that target?
So like I said, this next playtest, I think, so we kind of just because of the unexpected reach with the next test is that because we focus a lot on the quality of life features. So we really opposite. It wasn't like an actual next test, and we just went with alpha playtest 4 or 5. Yeah, sorry, a little confused. But if we went with that route, then we would have done, content based, and then for early access, we'll start working on all the quality of life features that people expect once they start paying for the product. But this time, okay, we're gonna have a more generalized audience in the game. So, and the other thing is because it's Next Fest, one of the requirements for Next Fest is that it has to be so. We were thinking, we push the Steam not just playtest, but we can't do that for the next fest because we're actually participating in the Steam Next Fest. The requirement is that you have to use the demo version. So this time it's going to be the process is actually going to be a little bit different. Is that we're hoping everyone that has it installed, they just need to turn on Steam and then have an update and then, but just because of how what they require for Steam Next Fest is what's going to happen is on the 6th, And what we're gonna do is the Steam Next Fest actually starts at 10 a.m. on the 6th on Pacific Standard Time, 10 a.m. on Monday. But what we're gonna do is we're actually gonna release our demo a few hours later. And so what you would do is you go to same thing, go to our web page or the Steam page, and just like in the past where there was that, launch playtest or request after the playtest, there's going to be a few green button that says, launch thing. And so it kind of sucks because you're going to have to access this entire, 10 gigabyte giant again. But that's just really not.
There might be a sneaky way people can save their bandwidth. Sometimes when a game on Steam switches from one title to another, if you go to your Steam Common Apps folder and copy paste it and then repair, it will just look for the differences. So all the sounds and textures and models that are remaining the same, it says, oh, that's there. So as long as you've not embedded them, people might be able to save it for those that don't have fast internet.
Pro Life did right there for Dark and Darker Next Fest. Yeah. So what was the original question? Sorry, I went off on that tangent.
It wasn't really a question, it was just a statement about we can't wait for the floodgates to open.
Yeah, you're gonna sell 2 million units. That's not even a question. It's happening.
So if that happens, I will put out another tweet.
Predicting it.
The soothsayers, the fortune tellers.
Everybody buy the game, okay? When you can.
So it goes back to if it was going to be like a mobile purchase, we would have done a lot of stuff, focus on content and extending that out. This time, because of Next Fest, we focus more on those quality of life features. Making improvements to some of the features that are already in the game that, I mean, it is alpha, so there are a lot of things that are kind of cumbersome and, so a lot of that stuff is going to be improved.
Just take my money.
So with the whole...
Sorry, go.
Oh, yeah, sorry. So hopefully, if people... if the new quality of life features meet the expectations of the players this time, and then we can start focusing
Crazy round.
basically on building up enough content to get to early access. So I think if things go well in that aspect, then I feel pretty good about going early access. I know in the past we've said April, but I'll be very realistic. It's more like end of April or maybe May. That's probably going to be more realistic.
That's fair.
Yeah. I think the biggest thing for us, one of the biggest challenges is going to be B1. In my mind, is like that is a must-have for early access, is to have B1. And we're still on the concept phase for that. And
speaking of B1, there's been community rumors back and forth, and I think we've talked about this in the past, but and I know that this is something that Sacriel has kind of been rallying for, would be the idea of starting in an outdoors kind of forested area and then working your way into the dungeon from the outside. So I guess my question is, for B1, will we be able to see the sky?
There's actually been that discussion internally, and so again, I don't want to commit because we haven't actually done any real development work yet. But seeing the sky was actually talked about. Yeah.
Okay. So, all right. So you're saying there's a chance?
There's definitely a chance. There's definitely.
So many of us have that memory of playing Diablo for the first time, and you're in the little kind of ruined town, and it's raining, and there's a stream, and there's orcs and goblins, whatever, and then you find a cathedral, and you go one layer down, and then you see oh my god, we're going deeper. that's such a compelling fantasy like experience that people want. And I feel like if you spawned in on B1 and you just like immediately underground in a cave, you might lose. So like I'm sure that experience I'm sure will be curated and awesome, but I think there's an awesomeness of like being on the surface and fighting little pockets of mobs, but then gradually working your way towards what's going on.
So okay, I'll be very frank. Is that scenario that Tapio explained? That's the same stuff that we talk about here, right? Internally, it's like, oh, all those kind of shared, that kind of emotional connection that you share, in those old fantasies, in your imagination. Oh, you're in this, and so it goes back to the company speech that SCF gave to everyone and said, that's our job. Our job is very simple. We have to fulfill that kind of fantasy, right? And so that is our standard that we want to do. The issue right now, the reason I have that question mark is by Q1, Q2.
Yeah.
Do we actually have enough time and enough capacity to give that experience, build that experience? Because that's our eventual goal, we're gonna have that exact, what you explained, we're gonna have that eventually, right? But is it gonna be in early access? I can't say for sure. And because we're very, we try to be very realistic about, like when I look at, our team right now, is we want to give you that feel, but realistically with our team and that time frame, that's gonna be very, very challenging. So like one of the things we talked about was like, oh man, okay, maybe we have to just go P1, but at least we're gonna have like openings and stuff where the shaft of like moonlight and stuff comes in. They hint at like in the future, you're not always on the again, there's so many different factors that go into it in terms of like how we start building out capacity to do that and finding the right answers, because we do have we're working around a lot. But, maybe 2 years out, what Taku explained, that's our goal. That's like the ultimate goal. One of the low caps that we need.
I'm getting hyped up.
Yeah. It kind of ties back into that D&D, right? If you ever play D&D, you often start off in a village or a town or something, and you head out to the wilderness, and you find a cave or a dungeon, and it's that kind of, it's kind of elevating and fairly safe on the surface, fighting gnolls and goblins and stuff, and then all of a sudden you go underground and it's like, I'm stuck in here. So yeah, I love that that's your end game goal. I don't know how that's for a studio that,
So we have different step-by-step, we have to get there step-by-step, but yeah. The other thing is, one of our things that we always talk about internally is like, yeah, that's our dream, and we always want to have dream big, and get there if we dream big, right? That is actually what we talk about. We want that. But even if we don't get to that ultimate goal, just knowing the direction, like when we get confused, okay, but that was our dream. Okay, so that's why we can start getting hints of that, and then eventually people can share that journey going there.
Nice. Okay, so I guess like interface stuff. Well, actually, you did have one other question. So about the game related stuff. Well, I guess weapons and all. So blocking angles for shields. A lot of times when you go to block with even a kite shield, NPC hits and stuff, if you don't have that angle perfect, or if you're not like getting up in their face and kind of cutting that angle off, that I don't know if it's a glancing blow that does like a little less damage maybe, but a lot of stuff seems like it still gets through an awful lot on those hits. Is that something that you guys have been looking at?
So we haven't been looking at that actively. So that's something we want to polish up. So basically, the way all the blocking and the blocking system works is that all the attacks and stuff have collision tracers, right? And so when it goes through the animation, it'll track where all the tracers go, all the blocking, like the shields, anything that are parried have the same, they actually have collision boxes. And so we're checking, okay, for a tick, if the path of the weapon animation is actually blocked by the collision, then that's what makes it actually a successful block. If any point though, like, so it has to be very, very precise. We're using all the actual physics engine of the Unreal Engine to calculate this out. And so this is, I think, where we might need to figure out where the polish comes in, is that because we're just being exact, right? Is that, and there are issues with the frame rates. So like if the server tick rate kind of stutters and stuff, and or there's weapons that are so quick that it goes through the entirety of the motion in like 3 seconds, right? And so I mean we do this calculation, right? But I think the main disconnect is that we're using very, very, very precise calculations to these kind of blocks, but because you're not physically there and in that first person view, is that if there was a camera and looking at it, you would actually precisely see why you didn't block it. Even though you block it, like if the tip of the sword glances your forehead, you will take that headshot damage. And so it's a very it's not an issue that could be totally solved just, you know, through the logic itself. I mean, you know, so we have to start figuring out ways to polish it so it can feel better to people. So those are things that are on the plan, you know. But again, this time, we're at a point where it doesn't feel great, but okay, it gives you a hint of what's to come, and so it's kind of on the reference. But it's on our list of things that we want to do. So there's a ton of those kind of stuff, right? And so those are things that kind of burn me. Okay, just go work on that. Again, if you look at the list of stuff that we have to work on, it's all about prioritizing things in a way. And so we're still early enough that there's a lot of stuff that we could do that we call it like the low-hanging fruit, right? Yeah. Where it's like, for the amount of effort and the amount of impact that it has, that, you know, in our calculation, it has to the overall general community and our players, is that, oh, we still have so many of these that we have to still work on. And so that's where our focus is right now. So things like that, those are always in the back of our mind that we have to improve. But there's just these other gigantic tasks right in front of us that.
Okay. Another like weapon-related question. Two-handed mauls. Can we have an overhead?
You win 200 mauls. Every game I play with this guy.
I just want an overhead.
No, so we may have gone a little overboard with the movement penalty. So
okay.
Okay. We want the heavier two-handed. So yeah.
Yeah, the movement penalties on two-handers are pretty rough. Yeah. Paint cleric's really slow and clean. Really slow.
Yeah. So I'm not saying it's back to the what is it, the October playtest, the October playtest where it was basically no movement penalty. So the September playtest had movement penalty as severe. It was probably worse than the December one, right? And then the October one, we're like, it was all because of the rating. Okay. That's why at the start of the December playtest, we were like, dang, you know, we gotta move the rate here for the road. And then there was a big, huge,
Yeah.
Yeah, and so it was a delicate balancing act there. But I think we did go a little bit too overboard. So, it's sort of, for us, like the reality of balancing is like sometimes we overgo, or, go to the extreme, and then we have to kind of ease it back up. So it's very hard to on that first try to hit that balancing mark.
Is there any,
that we have in mind?
Is there any chance of changing the attack animation on that weapon? Just because it swings, those wide swings left and right, it's pretty much like you have to be playing by yourself or you're just gonna clock your teammates. I think I team killed him like 5 or 6 times. Just like because the backswing would just catch him in the face and then he'd fold like a lawn chair.
So like one of the most famous Korean streamers. So because we're a Korean company, so a lot of our team watches like they killed the Lich, and a legendary war moth came out, and he's like, "Oh my god, I've never seen this before!" In front of like 17,000 people. He's like, "Oh, okay." So I've never slain a legendary war moth before. So he's just like, and then his teammate walked head first into the swing. It made awesome content.
That's amazing.
And we saw that. So the answer right now is that we haven't touched that one swing.
Okay.
It means it's kind of at this point it's kind of like a item. But so again, we'll look into it, but it's not just very high on the priority.
Yeah, it's okay. Okay,
before you like I have one big box speed, the slowest speed was 2 hours. So I noticed that when you changed it so more harsh speed penalties about swing animations, you could get like warriors. And it is an variance to like hilariously low speeds when they swing. I wonder if there's I don't know what your code is for the thing, whether it's a percentage-based reduction or just a flat unit-based reduction. But I wonder if it would make more sense if the slow spells have to be at a certain speed, so that if they are particularly fast, like someone that's used a haste spell, it brings them down to a normalized speed. But if that person then goes to swing a weapon, they don't get slowed down on top of their movement speed buff, and it might help balance it out. Because sometimes in fact, like you literally slow a barbarian and just stand in front of them, slow them again, and take 1 step back. They're literally just stood still, they can't do anything. And I felt like maybe reducing their speed to that, reducing it by 1%.
So there is currently a cap. It's not a very sophisticated capping system. It's just like, it's a bit. So I don't know off the top of my head the actual the formula we're using for that goes. So we do movement penalties with just the actual nominal amount. We do it by percentage base. So I don't know exactly how the slow is. So it's just there's so much complexity here. There are things that until we hear about it, it's like, oh, okay, it's not hard because when you're
That's what I'm saying.
so this is something that I don't know if it's gonna be easy fix or not. Like,
It's just something that's on your radar, just so that you might go to whoever's job it is to figure that stuff out and say, what is the slowest speed someone can get to? If they're swinging a 2-handed weapon, they start with default movement speed and they're slowed by mage. If they can do it, they go, oh Jesus, that's barely moving. It might be worth like implementing something like that.
otherwise we're just gonna be like any sacks and highlight reel. No, dude. Listen, man. This is just as much yours as it is mine. Gold storage. In your storage, is that being changed? Because I know that there was talks about having it consolidated.
So display test. So again, this is why it's really bad for me to hard commit on things, because I've said stuff and then now it's like, oh, why did I say that? So I think in the past I hinted at, oh, we're gonna, give more options for Gold Sword. We haven't touched anything on Gold Sword.
All right.
And the thing is, there's actually stuff that we built in already. So like, you know, right now there's pouches, right? Gold pouches. We actually built like bags and chests and stuff. But the thing is now, we're not sure if we're ever going to implement this. It's because, you know, doing more in-depth analysis and stuff is like, okay, you know, we're learning things from the play style and giving players these kind of restrictions have like side effects, like, you know, play styles that are coming out, or, you know, behaviors. And it's like, okay, well, is that, you know, at first maybe that's not what we desire, but after deeper thinking, it's like, oh, maybe that's not a bad thing. And giving those kind of restrictions gives people, you know, makes people do things that explore more, I guess, or, you know, trying to figure out, be more creative. And so, I'm not saying we're Xing the idea, but I think, you know, right now there's a very good chance that in the future we're going to implement it. Is that, but hey, we're not in a rush right now. You know, that's kind of what changed, and we'll see like how people react. And if it gets too overbearing or, you know, burdensome, because we're still doing a lot of other kind of tweaks and with the economy and stuff, and so we'll see. But yeah, no big life changes, no big goal changes, except quality of life stuff is like, you know, we're making it so interacting with the menus, interacting with like the trade, you know, like the trading post, it is actually really close to what we wanted to do. But I guess it's kind of a victim of its own success, is that you go into the trading post and it's too crazy there.
It's right? A zoo.
Like, you want to buy something, you're like, oh, it's basically reading the lines from the Matrix, you know? So people are really good at that. Oh, there's something. And by the time you've made that offer, it's already gone, so we worked a lot this time on trying to figuring out ways to make it more, not even accessible, but just like functional, I guess.
Okay.
So those are kind of the things that we've been really focusing on for quality of life features.
Would it be possible for the gold bags that you can buy to have a larger capacity for the coins that they'll hold?
Well, so again, that's a very easy change for us. But on purpose right now, we're not going to do that just because, giving these kind of restrictions is, So.
I kind of agree, because like it felt relatively easy, especially as streamers playing a lot. Even carrying this guy, we'd end up with like 8,000 gold, like just sat around. And if we had double-sized bags, it'd be like 16,000 gold. And what I really hope the game avoids is that Tarkov endgame where you have so much money, when you die, you don't go, oh my god, I lost my favorite ring that I got when I killed the boss, and my teammates died and I last hit the boss. All these, you really get attached to your gear, and you just go, oh, I died, that cost me 1,000 gold. Go to the trade thing, spend 1,000 gold, I'm back to normal. Go into the next game, oh, I died, that cost me 1,000 gold. And it kind of takes away I'm putting on my favorite ring, my favorite boots, my favorite sword. It's now just going to the marketplace and just dumping gold to get more gear. And you end up with this it kind of makes the game stale.
Yeah, so I think that's what we kind of discovered, is that, having that hard, because there's a hard limit on the maximum amount of gold that you can store right now, right? Is that, that exact kind of thought process that goes into what Sekiro was talking about, is that's kind of what we discovered, is that, because we have that limit, a lot of people are making strategic decisions because of that limit. And so this is something that, we didn't actively design around. It was just like, we don't have time to make the extra stash. I mean, it's easy to do, but it was just like, we have so much other stuff to do. And so we never implement. And actually in our design documents, we had all this stuff, like at the Excel, we'll have you know, premium stashes.
Hello.
You know, for a long time, asking for like shared stashes.
Hola.
So those are things that we actually work and decide about. Now we're like, oh wait, but it's actually making the game more interesting and more fun by giving people these kind of limitations and seeing how they're working around their limitations and how they're being creative with those limitations and what their thought process. So you can, I mean, that's the cool thing when you watch streamers and they have, it's like, you can see with their mouth, like what they're pointing at and what they're, it's like that kind of, the gear. I think that's the cool thing about, you know, games in itself. Is like, or when you're spectating someone and just, you can tell like when they're surprised, or like when they're, just by those little subtle things, and that's the hints that we're getting. And so, okay, so hey, we have this option, we could turn it on easily, but it's just like, oh wait, but those little kind of bits of joy for us, it's like, oh, is it direct, you know, how direct is that link right now? And so, okay, let's go on and see if, you know, this is the actual cause of people making those kind of decisions. That's the motivation.
So the idea of something like a shared stash, probably being put on hold then?
It's on hold right now. Okay. It's basically like overall like, oh, we need it. There's no question about it. We need it. And now we're like, you know, yeah.
It's another example of an issue that on the surface feels like you could make some bold statement, like if you just increase the gold bag sizes, people can have more gold. If you increase the stash size, it might encourage people to accumulate more gold. But there are some hidden depths to it. For example, what I found was a lot of people were making those were literally just, hey dude, trade me 10,000 gold from my other character. And someone would then go for 20,000, 30,000 gold on his account anyway, you can buy certain rentals. Whereas if you had a shared stash, they now can't have all the good gold, because all the gold goes to one file. To make it feel like, oh, I have to, you know, the players are always encouraged to not just have so much money to buy everything, they're still out there looking for gear in the raid. So yeah, it's a really complicated nuanced issue that you're going to have to navigate.
Okay, so
exactly.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, yeah. So that's why it's on hold, but it's still on the table. So again, it just requires a lot more analysis, I think.
Okay, I've been putting off the question that chat has literally been spamming me the entire time. Voice over IP in the game. This is, by the way, chat, in the last conversation, this was already a thing. It's 100% going to be in the game. All right, so for everybody wondering, it's going to be in the game. So what is the progress looking like on that? It's going to be in the game this test.
Yes.
Let's go!
Yes.
Dude, Jet's just doing this right now.
So actually, I wanted to get input from, you know, like, because you guys are big streamers, and I know that, so we have, it's going to be all by default, is that, what's the follow it off? Because I, you know, all these things are
for me, I think by default they put it as the P key. Like people making foot pedals, they buttons.
Yeah, thumb buttons. Yeah,
if we can redefine it, you know, then great. But I know that was a thing with like key bindings for you guys where you were working on trying to implement that.
So we have the basic key bindings for that. So by default, I think it's like the comma or the period key, but you guys will be able to customize it.
Okay.
And so yeah, because
the
I think
important thing about the hotkeys is, especially as streamers, having a hotkey we can use to just press and it mutes the VoIP and stuff.
Yeah.
Rather than, oh god, this guy's saying something racist. Escape, settings, audio, scroll down, VoIP, turn off.
It's
Having that hotkey is really important.
Yeah. So we you know, internally we realized that okay, you know, it's thanks to the streamers that we've even gotten this far, and so now a lot of our decision making is like, okay, we have to always be in consideration of okay, you know, there's difficult challenges for you guys too, right? And so how do we make it easy for you guys? And so that was a big thing. It's like that's why I was asking. Oh, okay. So it's instant. You press it, it'll just mute it. And then there's the other one where you press it, it switches between just team only or the proximity.
Okay.
Nice.
So that's what we've been working on the most. Is like, yeah, you know, we have prior to this internally, we always use our internal Discord, and we basically banned people, muted everyone, and you have to use the in-game VoIP and to see, you know, how it works. So again, it's our very, very first time implementing, you know, this kind of technology and this solution. We understand that, you know, it's going to improve. We're working on it. This is our first time working on it, so it'll be in this time. That was the big announcement that I wanted to do.
That's amazing. I think everyone's looking forward to that. The big question I've got as a rogue and wizard main, can we use VoIP instead? I can't wait to be stealthed in a dark room or something and it's just flooded down. I'm just like, hey guys, what the hell? Yeah. One very cool is
You know what? In my mind, the way we implement it should work. Yeah, it should be
hilarious.
Absolutely.
So,
Yeah.
I think we'll have it the next few days.
It's gonna be awesome. I'm so stoked.
Yeah.
So, the other thing that Chad has been spamming me about, bards. The bard.
Yeah. Again, so obviously, just because we have been focused on content, there's not gonna be a bard.
No bard for this one. Maybe next time.
Maybe next time.
Okay.
Hopefully next time. Yeah, hopefully next time. I think, yeah, I inadvertently, now I'm thinking about it, I think I kind of gave away another class, right? The sorcerer.
Yeah.
You're talking. Yeah. You know, it's pretty typical. It's gonna, obviously, any of those traditional fantasy roles we're gonna start working.
Will there be any like new spells or perks or anything like that being added for this one for any of the classes that you can think of?
Not much. Yeah. Again, yeah. I mean, there might be like one or two.
Okay.
But it's not gonna be a big in terms of the actual game content experience. Again, just because we're expecting the less hardcore, you know, to be nice about less hardcore audience. So we haven't tuned any of the difficulty itself, but then we do want to make it so at least the non-gameplay experience is as smooth as possible. And so the other thing with VOIP that we're adding this time is the in-game party invite. You know, so you don't need to just go and just start spamming invites to everyone. Is that we'll actually have like an in-game chat room, and you could inspect other people, and it's separated by region, and so you know, to I guess supplement that is that there's going to be a karma system.
Oh.
So if you team kill too many people, like your name will turn red. So it'll be very hard for you to. I mean, you probably need to do a lot of convincing to get people to party up with you.
Oh.
So these are experimental stuff that we're working on, just because even though it doesn't add to the actual gameplay experience, because we want to widen the net for new players coming in, is to make it as smooth as possible. These are the things that you could expect from players.
One thing I thought about when I was speaking in my chat about passing the random people is you're obviously going to get these people that spawn in, just stab someone in the head and take their gear. And I thought what would be interesting is when you die to a team damage, if it popped up on the screen and they said, and there were two options: this was accidental, let them loot my body, or this was a team kill, don't let them loot my body. Because that would instantaneously stop people queuing in just a team kill. Because when they kill those two people, two random teammates, and they go to click the body, it's like this. They said this was a team kill. Then it's like, oh, I can't get any loot. Whereas if you're playing with someone and you build up a rapport, you're with them for 20 minutes, and then they finally hit you with a fireball or something, and they're like, oh god, I'm sorry. You can be like, hey, no problem, dude. This was an accident, and then they can loot your body, and you can queue up with them, and they can bring your gear back next game, that kind of stuff. So having something that just says you can't loot my body because you team killed me might immediately prevent a lot of trouble.
So there's going to be a very controversial take on this, is that, so we did think of a system similar to that when we're thinking about, the grouping and the at least for right now, our conclusion is that, we don't, like, team killing is actually part of Dark and Darker. That's what we think of it, is that there's actually no rules against team killing. So because we want to give people that kind of freedom. The problem is not having any consequences for people, right? And that's what up until this point we feel like we fail. It's like we want to have you want to be able to judge someone by building a rapport or, having that kind of reputation. And that's what we're going to try to address with the karma system. So, so the thing is, like, we all, if you're going in with people that you've never met before, you should have that kind of tension of, oh, hey, can I really trust this guy or not? Yeah. And so that's why we didn't outright, within the system, try to handle that, but we do want to, but then it shouldn't just be the Wild Wild West, right? Because again, you're so anonymous online, right? And so you can just create we want there to be some kind of weight to your reputation, and that's what we're going to try to. This karma system, to us, we're kind of really excited about it. We're like, man, this is kind of like a social. I feel bad saying like, oh, we're experimenting with our. To us, it's like we don't know. We don't know how people are going to actually behave with this karma system. Like we were making bets last night. Like, man, I bet you like in 3 days, 90% of our.
I'm not leaving. You go right ahead, bud. I'm hunting people down till there's none left.
Good, helping each other out, and there's gonna be a bunch of new names, and so that's how people read.
Can we give them an instantly red name if they shoot Otto in the tavern?
But that goes back to answering. That's why we did it within the system.
On Joker.
So, it's a hard.
Disregard.
Now we leave it up to the community, and we're going to see how the community uses it. But so the problem that in the past was not getting any kind of tools, right? And it was just pure. It's like, okay, so we'll give people ways that they can hint. And we always want that kind of sense of element of danger. Okay, I'm teaming up, we want it to feel like the actual, you're in the tavern, and then there's all the other adventurers there, like, can I really trust this guy? What's his motivation? That's a problem. So we want to give that kind of, keep that freedom to the players. But we are wary. If the community just totally degenerates into everyone, then then we might have to make a harder line. But this is something, you know, that maintaining player freedom is something that I think we have to make really deep considerations before we overstep that, yeah, or cross that line, yeah.
Awesome, I respect the answer.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I know we're starting to run over here, so we got to start wrapping this up.
The reason is right now it's super cold in Korea, and we only have one meeting room, and people use it for lunch.
Okay.
It's
we'll get
after right now, so I'm getting the side eyes.
Okay, we'll wrap up real quick.
Area that people could congregate.
So I have two more like really quick questions. The first is bulk like buying and selling of items. So like being able to buy like 3 potions at once, or sell your silver coins for gold coins like at once.
Yeah.
So that was actually a more difficult problem than we initially expected. We do have a solution. It's not like the perfect solution, but now what the vendors do, they do sell stacked items.
Okay,
right?
so okay, good.
So
right.
it's kind of like an intermediary step until. So again, those are the things we kind of focused on. Is like, okay, making just the overall play experience, you know, not the gameplay, but the play experience a little bit smoother. So yeah, that's something that's good. Kind of addressed.
Good step in the right direction. And then the last question I think I have is for the ruby silver mining, the ratios of like how much it took to mine the material to turn it into the ingots to craft an actual or make an actual like item to wear or use was an awful lot. Has that been adjusted at all?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, it's I think off the top of that, I think we just slashed it in half.
Oh, okay. All right, cool.
Oh,
Yeah. Because I never saw a single person running around with like any of that gear, like the entire time. I never saw a piece of it. So it would be cool to see somebody like actually wearing it, you know?
So I think hopefully this time you'll see more people wearing it.
Yeah, that would be great. Yeah. Okay. I mean, Sakura, unless you have anything, I think that's pretty much most of everything I think I wanted to ask. Oh, and I guess I'm going to assume that there aren't any quests or anything being implemented for this playtest, but like working on it in the future.
Yes.
Okay.
So I mean, yeah, that's why I need to keep my mouth shut. But yeah, because previously again we thought we're going to focus on content and have the initial quest listed in, but that was kind of a pipe dream. That's a little bit too ambitious. And so I think that's gonna be pushed off until we'll start to see the preliminary quest system, the start of it for the next test where we'll see.
Cool. Well, Terry, thank you so much for spending your morning and I guess our evening with us for a little while. It's always a pleasure talking to you. For everybody in chat, a copy of this will be put up on YouTube for you guys to review, and I'll do a summary for you all if you want the short form stuff. But yeah, man, thank you so much for spending the time.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you.